It's unfortunate that the guy is not. It's been like came from the other boss.
If it's solid red, it's fine. Okay.
Okay,
Sorry.
Thank you.
okay, do I need to repeat? No, okay. Okay. And, first of all, staff. Okay, state your names for the record, please.
Nolan Harshaw.
Stephanie, you were part of this?
Yes, just in case. Stephanie Hensley.
Okay, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'll call roll, please.
Mr. Farkas,
Here.
Mr. Webb, Mr. Bush,
Here.
Mr. Napi,
Here.
Ms. Benner,
Here.
Mr. Sweeney,
Here.
and Ms. Hamilton.
Okay, we have four. Everybody get an opportunity to review the minutes from the last meeting.
Yes.
Are there any additions or corrections to same? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the minutes. That's one.
Been moved to approve the minutes.
Second.
And it's been seconded.
Mr. Farkas,
Further.
Mr. Webb, Mr. Bush,
Approved.
Mr. Napi,
Approve.
Ms. Benner,
Approve.
and Mr. Sweeney.
Approve.
Thank you.
Okay. Wow. New applications. We have one today. It is EF 2307-002. Address is 494 West Walnut Street. And the owner and applicant is Blake Compton. Staff report, please.
Mr. President, I need to recuse myself from this.
Okay, note for record, Mr. Sweeney is recusing himself.
Thank you. This is 494 West Walnut Street, EF 2307-002. Proposed work description is the applicant is requesting review and action for exterior building alterations, landscaping, and a change of use at 494 West Walnut Street, located within the Arts and Innovation Subdistrict. The project would convert an existing single-family home into a mixed-use building with an eating and drinking establishment on the first floor and one single dwelling unit on the second. The project will remove the north portion of the existing building, which is 314 square feet, and would rebuild a two-story, 522 square foot addition on the rear. Additionally, a new 55 square foot porch with balcony will be added to the front of the structure, as well as an enclosed addition for a chairlift to provide access to the first floor. The current proposal includes the following: 2-inch square vertical corrugated metal siding, new concrete ADA curb ramp to street level from West Walnut Street, the addition of a 6-foot wood privacy fence in the rear, existing shade tree in the rear yard to remain, dumpster with 6-foot wood screening enclosure located on the northwest corner of the property. The submission includes site plans, elevations, existing condition photos, and material specifications / cut sheets. Let me switch over to the materials really quickly so you guys can see those. This is just an overview of the area. Okay. It's just the overhead site plan. Here are our elevations, north elevation and south elevation. You can see the existing tree remaining and the wood fence in the back. On the east elevation and west elevation. And lastly, we have a few renderings. So I'll go ahead with the staff analysis. The proposal is generally consistent with the East Franklinton Creative Community District Plan, and the code permits the proposed uses. Plan recommends historic buildings be preserved to the extent possible and that ADA accessibility be provided. The applicant is repurposing a historic home in the neighborhood and proposing a chairlift to make the establishment accessible from the street. Further, the East Franklinton Creative Community District Plan recommends screening, ground-mounted mechanical, and to use landscaping to provide aesthetic appeal and environmental benefits. Finally, the plan recommends incorporated of SEPTED principles to create a safe environment. The proposed front patio increases the number of eyes on the street, and the proposal is consistent with these guidelines. The application is proposing to keep the existing black metal vertical rail fencing along a portion of the southern and western property lines. However, the plan recommends when a proposed use may conflict with adjacent uses, such conflict should be remedied / minimized through design. To this point, staff recommends that additional landscaping be considered where the existing fence meets the right of way to further screen between the different uses. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions. The conditions being additional landscaping along the existing southern fence line and having the applicant to return for lighting and landscaping. So,
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff? Chair notes the arrival of Kim Wack.
I do have a question for staff. I guess one of my observations is that this house sits next to several other houses that have a very distinct kind of facade, consistent facade, and the window spacing, the number of windows, all of that. How does staff feel about architecturally kind of breaking the momentum of the street facade?
I guess I'm not 100% convinced that it does completely break it up, to be honest. I think the massing and scale is quite comparable to some of the other homes along that. I also kind of recognize that it does sit off of an alley. And to the right of that alley is an existing commercial / industrial warehouse building. So I think it makes it even more appropriate in our opinion, that since it sits on the corner, appropriate. That helps. That is difference.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff? If not, would the applicant come forward, please? State your name for the record, please.
Name is Blake Compton.
And do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Okay, actually, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Well, I think I'd like to just attempt to answer what we try to do, Kim, because I think it's valid. The roof line on the front of the building is really important to keep and maintain that, to keep that repeated look of the structures. And then on the back side is where we kind of went a little bit more contemporary, which in the design standards, it kind of allows to have that movement even on a streetscape like this. Other than that, yeah, this is a project that I kind of got excited about last year and was a little inspired by Jim Sweeney's desire to build his bar and wanted to be a part of that storytelling. And I think that as Franklinton continues to grow up, there's fewer and fewer spaces that are small for incubating small business growth. And so we're trying to create a first floor restaurant space that has the hood, the ADA accessible entrance, the bathrooms, the grease trap, the mechanical upgrades, while still providing a dwelling unit, so we're not getting rid of a place for someone to stay. It is planned long-term rental, so no short-term. And to that point, we are providing parking space for that apartment. Forward to answer any other questions.
Any questions for the applicant?
So I just want to continue with my line of
Yeah.
questioning. And it's too bad that Mr. Sweeney had to recuse himself, because, that was the kind of the genesis of the question, is that proposal stayed within the, kept the side entry and all that in. And I know that Mr. Sweeney has been in front of the board as a landowner, promoting this whole street and its character and its uses and all that. And we've never had a discussion about, Are we trying to preserve the character? Are we okay with altering it dramatically? Like putting a front onto this building that doesn't have one as the side entry, that's not typical of what you see in this neighborhood itself. Part of me wants to be on the preservation side, and we don't have our preservation architect here either, so that's unfortunate. But at the same time, this is supposed to be a funky, different area in Columbus. That was the intent that it was set up. So, varying from the norm, I can buy it in that it's just, and again, everything you're doing looks great. It's changing the character of that dwelling from what it was and the character of that streetscape from what it was. And I guess I'm throwing that out there for the rest of the board to consider as well, but that's my only concern is that and I'd appreciate you kept the gable and all that stuff, and yeah, I think that helps. But
If I may,
yeah,
I think that was actually the intent. We wanted to stand proud with it being redeveloped and it adding a commercial use to the space. We wanted to be very clear to folks walking around the neighborhood that that's something they can come to and it's not someone's house. So that's part of the vibrancy of the color that we've chosen. And also, as you guys already went through with Jim, the sites are very tight, and in doing a ramp along the side just didn't seem plausible on either side. We don't have the parcel line along the alley to do that. I think we have like 3.5 or 4 feet. So we can't do a ramp along the side. So we really went with this wheelchair lift, which is a substantial expense. And we felt like it made more sense to have it offset on the corner than it did to put it where we've now moved the main entrance of the front of the house. And I will note the original application actually had a metal roof. We took that away to try to stay a little bit more traditional with the shingles of the rest of the structures down the house line. So at least the roof is kind of staying with the intent of the existing architecture.
and is there actually the house next to you? Does it actually have a little retaining wall? Is that accurate? Or is that just a
Yes,
delivery?
yeah, it has a little retaining wall, and in fact, that fence. So if we want to talk about that a little bit, because that was one of the staff's comments about the additional landscaping. I would like clarification on that if we could, but that there's a little metal fence that's up there that is it's partially on our property line, but it was installed by our neighbor. And so if we could, I would love to save that because it would keep the integrity of their property, even though it's on our property line. Just it kind of fits how they've already built and renovated their home. So we tried really hard to not modify or adjust things that are right on that line, if at all possible. We did it in the back so we could get the entrance up to the apartment, and then listening to the previous application that Mr. Sweeney went through, we added the screen fence in the back as there was a request for him to do that. So we kind of went ahead and moved forward with that. But outside of that, we really didn't want to touch the front of the house for the sake of the neighbor.
So what material is that little wall? Is it?
Her wall.
That little curb wall in your neighbors.
It's like I
What site it sits on?
poured concrete. I don't know if
It's hard to tell.
yeah.
I think it is concrete.
Yeah, it's poured concrete. You can
It looks like
you've got page 2 up. Yeah.
So I guess the one thing that in your renderings that you're using a block for your, I mean, it'd be really nice if that concrete wall, I guess, that texture or whatever was carried through, as opposed to have something totally different. I don't know if that's possible to treat that block with something that starts to blend it in with.
I mean, it's definitely possible. I think we're going with the block because it kind of talks a little bit to the adjacent commercial structure. And so again, we're trying to note to the commercial structure rather than residential. I think if we tied it to the residential structure, we might start confusing people.
Except it's a residential house being converted, so it has more of a residential feel than it does to that commercial building, which is totally out of character. So that would be my, I mean, I appreciate your proposal and everything you're trying to do.
I'm looking for the high five for the tree we're saving, man. I was like, we're not taking that tree down. I don't want to hear it. Again, that's it.
Sorry,
It's all good.
different focus today.
I have to say, I would agree though with like staff's statement as far as like it, because it's next to a commercial building, I don't think the facade or anything, the change in that doesn't really affect it as much as the rest of the houses. And knowing what they're probably gonna be doing down there, I think there might be some more changes down the future that we'll see like that.
Okay.
Questions for staff or the applicants? I got a question. This is an issue for everyone to consider. The staff brought up a need for additional landscaping along the fence. I guess it's the alley fence, is that correct?
Actually on this line right here.
That line right there?
The intent was, there were some
Screen it from the neighbors.
screening from the neighbors, and initially I think there was a mechanical unit back there.
Okay.
We wanted screen for view from the street.
So we do have the screening for the mechanical on the site plan. But you're asking for additional past that to kind of define the line.
Yes.
We certainly can do that if you guys need us to do that. I would ask or almost beg not to do that if I don't have to, because essentially if you look at as it shows right there, the blue house has my property's parcel line's 3.5, 4 feet into that. So if I put a screening there, I'm just drawing a kind of an arbitrary line in her yard and making a little area for both of us to mow, when right now I'm essentially just saying, hey, it's yours to manage. We're just gonna have some stuff in the back. But if that's what you need, we can do it.
Thoughts, everybody?
Doesn't look like there's any access to that side of the property. So I don't really find it important to differentiate where the property line is, and you're not really screening anything. It's the side of the building.
Well, we don't know what might be screened because we don't know what might happen there in the future, like what might end up there, what be put there. And there's no guarantee who's gonna put. I actually wouldn't mind some kind of an upright evergreen, just kind of like we see in an Italian villa, just something very slender, and that would just kind of like finish off that space without like a hard wall or anything. And then if what happens behind it, you know, you can't see it, it's a screen. So I think it actually is an appropriate gesture. And like you save the tree in the back. Jim, I was trying to save the tree in the front, but you don't have a tree in the front.
No, we don't.
So maybe this is putting a tree in the front. I think that would help, because you don't know what kind of trash is going to collect back there. You don't know how well it's going to be maintained. And if you plant something there, it keeps the eye out to the, you know, the front of the house.
Right now, it's fenced off on all sides by the adjacent property owner. And when we add some AC units there on one side of the house, this rendering is not completely up to date, but if you look at the site plan, you'll see that we have a door going out to get to those AC units. So there you can see that's purely for maintenance. So that area is not going to be used for anything other than maintaining the AC units and the two little screening bushes. Again, it's just we can do whatever we need to do. I really not want to do a tree because the tight lots and it's just in between the houses. It just seems like it's going to be something that's
Very narrow,
Very narrow.
green, like they're all.
I'll trust you. I don't know.
I would select one of those, but I don't know if we'll get into detail. But I think that would help. You know, stuff's gonna blow in there. There's gonna be trash in there. I'm sure you're gonna take care of it, pick it up. but we don't have any guarantee of that, so putting something there that blocks whatever gathers in that space. And hopefully you're not gonna mow that. She's not mowing that. I can't imagine there's grass growing there, but
She's mowing it, yeah,
it's a tough place to grow stuff.
yeah.
Can you clarify where exactly on this you would be asking them to put something?
Yeah,
An approach was to point to it.
yeah, honestly, our thought was just similar to what Mr. Wade said, just along the house here.
I don't think you need to have stuff all along there. I think that's overkill. I think just something appropriately placed right here.
So right by the patio such as?
Yeah. I mean,
So in front or behind that short, that fence between the two properties.
if you look at the rendering, it would kind of help kind of frame, kind of like for the frame to the front.
Let's go back to the render. There we go.
Just imagine something right there, kind of very narrow. Going up.
So you're saying where the mouse is right now?
Yep.
Pointer? There'll be like two or three evergreens there.
I think you could probably get away with one
Okay,
if you buy something that's the right.
okay.
Again, if you can't put them, parallel to the street, there's just not enough room. If you plant them more, you'd have to go back, and I just still, that's overkill to me, because you're not gonna see that. Once past the first one, you're not gonna see that, so it's just a really good one, a really good specimen right there.
Well, and if we approve this application, we can approve it with the conditions that they return for lighting and landscaping, because they're coming back for lighting anyway.
Is it true, just for my own education here, that as long as we're within the development standards, so we can do a staff approval on lighting at this point?
Yes, but that would be up to the commission as well.
Okay.
Staff is aware of, does everyone agree with Kim's suggestion generally?
Is that inconsistent to not have the tree there? I kind of trying to follow.
Because I mean, it feels like it's.
Is it inconsistent not having landscape in the front?
No,
That's just more of a recommendation, our own style recommendation, so that's almost us kind of creating something, so applicants that might come back, this is something that we would start requesting.
yeah, I
Is that
think,
kinda how it
I
goes?
guess kind of the impetus behind this was as much additional screening as possible between
I see.
uses, since this use is changing. And the one to the west, is gonna continue to be residential.
My take on it is I don't think Kim's recommendation will look bad. I mean, it might enhance the aesthetics, but I wouldn't hold up me personally wouldn't hold up an approval based on that.
And I guess I would plea that I'm really trying not to adversely affect the existing property owner. And this is just another thing we'll be doing, while it's my property, it's in their yard, and every little thing I have to do, there's gonna be a discussion point with them, and if I don't, I really tried not to touch, we tried not to touch the front of the house, and I think the difference with the fencing and the access point is creating a clear line in between the two properties, but I would hope we don't have to do this.
Yeah, and to my point, like to what he was stating, though, like, yeah, I don't know if I would feel as I had a fruit tree in my front yard, that's I didn't ask for.
Well, it's free.
Well, it's free, so I mean,
It's a free
Free
tree.
from who?
I take it in a heartbeat.
And also, I mean, so the way this looks to me in the rendering, the fence for the neighbor's fence is behind where the actual patio is, like, kind of like, it almost seems like it's a little bit behind.
It does wrap,
patio.
it wraps back there, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was thinking, so, yeah.
I was trying to figure that out. It looks, in the plans, it looked like it was right up on. But it's,
But you see, like, if you look at where the fence is right here compared to that block,
On-
yeah, yeah.
it looks
but
like it's
that's,
a little bit off.
Look on
but
page
that's a
2.
Yeah, I know, but I'm trying to think of like,
I'm just trying to see what the facts are.
Mhm.
We can't,
You can see a little better here in this image.
does it show that? Yeah, yeah.
It does wrap around all the way.
It does, right? So it isn't back, it's front. Isn't it on the wall? Doesn't it? Correct. Yes, and the wall is aligned with your stoop, so that fence is right there. It's not set back.
No, but it is on, yeah, it is a few feet on our property line. So if I don't have to touch it, I won't. I don't want to touch it.
Right.
She did pay for that.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
think we're suggesting to touch the wall, which is,
Blake, have you had much discussion with your neighbor about the project?
Yeah, I know, Jim talked to her a couple years ago. I talked to her the day I bought it, told her what we were doing with it. She was really excited. She wanted a sandwich shop. I couldn't guarantee that, but, we haven't talked necessarily about the back fence yet. I kind of wanted to get, a stance here, an approval, and then go to her and say, here's what we're doing, and would like to say, hey, I fought for the front of your house. I think is my result here, but yeah.
Okay. The one benefit I see of the planting would be to potentially, for your neighbor, buffer the front entrance of your establishment. And potentially, they might appreciate that. If you're trying to keep good relations with them, that might be something that they would actually be a fan of, but I would leave that between you and the neighbor. Just a thought, though.
a creative solution with this also tech work, like if you did like also like a lattice with maybe some vines going down on the other side of the actual door or on the side of there, so you wouldn't have to, but still block it off. Would that work for you in that sense?
I'm looking at it from looking down between the houses. Gotcha. And just knowing that in tight urban areas like that, those areas always fill up with trash.
Gotcha.
And they're always not very sightly. So something that at the sidewalk, base, right, if you will, there's something that screens you people looking back in there. And it also screens the AC units and stuff too that are further back in there, even though there's additional screening for that, but.
One of my questions, I know you had mentioned your neighbor might like it, and I don't know, again, a lot about trees. But just think, I am thinking about the neighbor now too. They might like it, they might not like it. So again, is there a chance that the wrong tree gets planted or a tree gets planted and it grows starting to like go in front of their house or like into their space where it actually becomes like a nuisance to them? Is that like, because it is such a tight space, as a neighbor, we're playing the game of like, would the neighbor like it or would the neighbor not like it? So I don't know if there's like a perfect tree that would, through years, let's say this is, in 20 years, what does that tree do? Or in 10 years, what does the tree do? It's just like.
There are trees that have now been genetically modified to be
Yeah,
4 feet wide forever,
oh, yeah,
3 feet wide forever. They go straight up.
okay, I did not
They
know.
usually have the word columnar in them.
Okay,
So, and you can get deciduous trees that do the same thing. They just go straight up. It's amazing.
I don't know if it helps, but ultimately it'll be the board's decision to make the approval. But we are asking the applicant to return with landscaping and lighting. So it might clear some things up if they do return with landscaping, specifically what tree will be there. Then they can come back to the board again and it can be discussed.
And I understand that. I think it'd be a very good idea at this point, though, when they return with that landscape plan, that we've already talked it through.
On the lighting comment, we were providing a picture of a type of light. If we provide that specification, can we not get that approved here today or through staff approval in the future? And separately, the landscaping, is it this important that we define this one tree to have to come back? I'm thinking about process and getting and submitting for permit, and then this is just adding an extra month of process.
Well, I think on the site plan, and actually I'm looking at it now, and it's a little bit different. And the original site plan did have additional plantings along the alley. So that was one. I don't know if they were trees. I'm not sure.
There were bushes. Yeah, there were bushes.
don't see them here.
We had the architect remove those, due to the fact that it's an existing sidewalk and there's a door on the side of of the house back of house for the kitchen staff and potentially receive deliveries. So we wanted to maintain that sidewalk rather than lose the sidewalk.
Gotcha. And I think that was the main reason that we are requesting the landscape plan, because we saw additional plantings.
Got it. I would prefer not to come back for those two topics. So if there's a way to request a vote on as presented and discuss potential staff approval on the lights as shown and get a spec, because I think they are consistent with the design standards.
Is the lighting that's shown as a part of this package, is that all of the lighting is going to be, so it's already identified on the elevations?
Yes.
And it's only gonna be that one type of fixture?
What about the lights in the ceiling of the porch? Those aren't specified. I don't think. It's just that one wall sconce.
Yeah, the exterior lights, yeah, the wall sconces are the singular one.
So the lights that are in the ceiling of the porch, they're not gonna be there.
They're not identified.
They just showed in the rendering, that's all.
Yes.
So to get approval on the lighting, we would need to have the fixtures and the specs for all of the lighting that would be a part of the exterior of the project. So, if the board is comfortable based on the renderings of what those fixtures will look like, you could make final approval of lighting a staff approvable condition, or you could request that they come back.
So the ones that aren't identified are the ceiling of the porch. There's some recessed, probably 4-inch or 6-inch lights. We don't have I don't think we provided a spec on that. I haven't discussed it with the architect. But we would be glad to get whatever's consistent with design standards because it's a concealed light. It's really just, shining on the stairs, and it's kind of the utility light, really.
And then it would be this.
Staff approval.
There's 3 sconces, right? One in the back.
Would be the front.
The plans show one over the door in the back,
Yes.
so same light fixture, right?
Yes, they're all the same light fixture. I think there's one on the side as well.
I don't have any problem with that light fixture. I'm sure that the lights.
They were certainly making staff approval.
Right.
All right. Anyone disagree with that? No. Okay. So we're down to landscaping. We're down to Kim's tree.
I'm responding to staff's comments. Okay, this is their recommendation.
Here, this is your fault, Holman.
We appreciate that. And saying that, I agree with staff that it would be appropriate to have something that helped, especially you're not doing it on the alley side, and I actually totally agree with that, right? Nothing will grow in there if you put it,
Yeah.
So here you have an opportunity to do one signature, beautiful tree of some sort that is tall enough and wide enough to not impact your neighbor, but to help to mitigate that view down between the houses.
You could suggest a tree. You don't have to tell them the tree, but you could suggest that their architect consider a tree that you think would be appropriate in that space. If you have a suggestion.
On the spot,
You don't have to.
I would need to do my research.
You just seemed like you had a tree in mind that you wanted to share.
Well, Google Italian villa and you will see the type of tree I'm talking about.
Well, you're going with that.
It's a cedar, there's a number of different things it could be that are upright evergreen. I think evergreen is probably the preference. So, and there's a number of columnar upright evergreens that you could use.
So just to make sure that we're all on the same page, so as like, we know that there might be more things coming our way on Walnut Street, this would be something that we would ask for everyone going forward, right? That if they don't have a tree on their, in like, or is it because of that between the houses? I just want to make sure when, because I know another
Unfortunately,
one
it's
come back.
unfortunately peculiar to this location because you have such a narrow space there.
Okay,
What words in your mouth?
And Mr. Sweeney's application, or whatever the name of that one, they have, remember they have landscaping going in between the ramp and the house. So we did
Yeah.
that, we did have a conversation about
Yeah.
that.
yeah.
Recommended that they,
Yeah, I mean, as long as we're like, this is sort of what we're gonna ask for on the street, I think. That's what we would have to be comfortable doing, if that's what we're gonna ask.
I think this specific step recommendation is because the plan talks about there needing to be screening between different uses.
Got it.
And so this is going to be a commercial use next to a residence, which we also encountered on Jim's application.
Yeah,
But the way that these sites are next to each other and the way that the yards are not lined up with the property line, it's not as simple as Jim's was running a fence.
sure.
So I think that's where the compromise is to enhance the landscaping. So that's the unique situation here. If we were in a different part of Walnut Street, maybe where it was commercial next to commercial,
Sure.
the screening wouldn't be an issue.
Okay, that's helpful, thank you.
I'm more concerned about the precedent of like totally changing the facade of an existing building. Right, if this was in German Village, it wouldn't even pass muster, right? It wouldn't fit in.
Mm-hmm.
But because this is East Franklinton and we have this overarching goal of trying to create a place that's different and unique, I think that gives us more flexibility than the historic nature of those houses. Although in saying that, this is a unique area in East Franklinton that has captured some of the past. And so we're allowing that past to be altered. Again, just throwing that out.
Okay, I think we've talked this to death. Anybody have a gee, let's use my words here.
A motion.
Motion, there we go. It's a motion.
Motion to approve with the addition of one additional upright evergreen tree in the side yard of the property
Staff approval.
and staff. Yeah, staff can approve.
And so the lighting.
Oh, that says is, right? The lighting's been submitted.
Lighting's been submitted, right? Correct?
We just need a specification for that can light.
Okay,
Yeah,
staff approval.
right.
May I add just one more Hail Mary, because I'm fine with that. But, or however, I would love if I could present this to the neighbor. And if they say yes or no to it, that could be considered a part of this vote. So if I have an email from them that says, I really don't want a tree, even though it's your property, don't put a tree in my yard. Is that, I mean, there's a human side of this where I'm trying to think of the neighbor.
But you are putting it on your property, so.
Correct.
It's your property right to do that. Your neighbor, well, it'd be the nicest thing to do, to have that conversation. At the end of the day, it's your decision. And based on, it would be based on our approval of it with the tree.
I guess I'm just thinking about neighborhood politeness and thinking about my neighbor, but you are right.
Hopefully those conversations are had before you come to the commission, so.
Well,
How would I learn?
Fair. No, have the conversation.
I don't have to respond to it.
So if he were to have that conversation and they said, no, don't want that, could he come back here and ask to have the, his, approval amended?
I mean, the condition could be to request the tree if the neighbor is amenable, and then the applicant has to provide documentation that they've had this conversation. I would just call your attention, I guess, to the conversation we did have with Mr. Sweeney's application, that the person that lives there now may not always be the person that lives there. And, you know, for what it's worth, we have just bringing it to the table as being equitable and fair. We did have that conversation related to another property down the street that.
Okay.
So really, we need to be taking into consideration this property and this project, despite these unfortunate wonky situations. And you, I mean, certainly you all can prove it with or without, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
All right, well, anybody have a second to Mr. Way's motion?
Or throw out a new,
Let's try again.
not me, somebody else put it.
I'll second it. It's been moved and seconded. Move the application with stated conditions.
Quick clarification, was the last condition adding the tree or making that optional based upon what the neighbor?
Right now, it's adding the tree.
Right, yeah. And if something dramatically changes, then the applicant can come back to us, ask for forgiveness. Or plea for forgiveness.
So I have the addition of the tree up front and the additional specifications of the can lighting above the.
Both staff approval.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Moved and seconded.
Mr. Fergus,
Approved.
Mr. Webb,
Approve.
Mr. Bush,
Approved.
Mr. Napi,
Approved.
Ms. Benner, and Mr. Swing. Oh,
He approved, I think.
Out.
thank you. Motion passes. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Okay. We have one conceptual application today. It is EF 2307-003, 625 and 657 West Town Street. The owner is Pilot Dogs Incorporated, represented today by Jim Alloway. And the applicant is Dustin Todd with Arch All Architects. Staff report, please.
Thank you. The applicant is requesting a conceptual review of the Pilot Dogs mixed-use development located within the Dodge Park subdistrict. Current conceptual development plans include the following. To building A. Here's building A, building B, and building C. So for building A at 675 West Town, a 13,375 square foot addition to the existing building, which will expand their office and training program. This proposal includes increased parking in the rear of the building. Additionally, this location includes a lot combination of 5 parcels in the northwest portion of the site. Building B is a 6,948 square foot addition to the rear of the existing building, which will expand orientation and mobility and pilot dog training, expand pilot dog team training. This project also includes improving the existing park space on the corner of Town and Grove. The application also includes rebranding across Pilot Dogs campus to include new color schemes on the proposed building additions, a new logo, and new mural artwork. The proposal is generally consistent with the recommendations of the East Franklinton Creative Communities District Plan. The plan recommends that new construction be integrated with the existing fabric and scale of the neighborhood, and notes that a wide range of architectural styles are appropriate with a preference for contemporary building design and materials. The plan also recommends 4-sided architecture, that larger buildings be divided into modules and bays, and that street level facades be as transparent as possible. The proposal is consistent with these guidelines. The plan also recommends the incorporation of publicly accessible open space in developments over 1.5 acres. While the applicant is proposing open space, it is not publicly accessible. Additionally, the East Franklin Creative Community District Plan recommends the building's primary entrances should be oriented to the public street. The proposed main entrances are not on West Town Street. Staff does not oppose these inconsistencies due to the nature of the use and existing building configurations. Finally, the plan recommends accessibility to be provided per ADA standards. mechanical and dumpsters to be fully screened, and service and loading zones should be located to the rear, side, or internal location. Parking lots to be screened as well. The details are not currently shown on this site plan. As the design progresses, staff recommends the following: that the applicant engage with building and zoning services to determine if a council variance is required for the proposed uses. For the applicant to engage with the Department of Public Service to identify required parking based on proposed usage and reflect that on a final site plan. Identify ADA accessible entrances. Roof and or ground mounted mechanical should be screened to their full height. Service and loading zones and dumpsters should be located to the side, rear, or internal area of the site. Inclusion of street trees along public streets in consultation with the city forester. And lastly, with parking lot screening per the plan and code standards. The applicant will need to provide additional detail on material specifications, lighting, landscaping, as well as scaled and measured site plan and elevations when returning for action. Staff notes the approval of graphics and signage is not required for action on the building and site design, but the applicant should be prepared to submit those details for review and approval prior to installation. And this is conceptual, so no recommendation given at this time.
Okay, thank you. Questions for staff? If not, go ahead. Hold on a second. If not, would the applicants come forward, please? Well, state your names for the record, please.
Dustin Todd. I'm Jim Holloway.
I'm Carmen Cioli.
And you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief.
I do. Yes, I do.
Okay, floor is yours. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the detailed description. Regarding those specific comments, we're already in touch with Building and Zoning Services about the council variance, and they're helping us guide through that process. The building to the far east of this site in 2015 received a council variance for something very similar to what we're proposing for these sites. So we feel very confident that that will be approved as we go through the process. Overall on the site and design, we're really looking to expand and create a heightened level of service for pilot dogs here. And as a campus, tie the design together to their existing campus while also using the new entrances to differentiate a little bit, bring a little bit more of their branding colors into the building design, and just draw a little bit more attention to those spots specifically. Regarding the entrances, the center building, which is 625, currently has an entrance at the front and the back. That front entrance on town will be maintained. We are simply just moving the back entrance to our addition. So there will be an entrance from town on that building. It's kind of in that little notch you see where the sidewalk goes back on that center building. Yes, right there. That will remain. And on the other building, we really want to emphasize the park and really improve that park on the corner. And we did push the entrance close to the corner, and there's some language in the development text about when you're on a corner trying to address the corner as well, which is what we were attempting to do while also not blocking. There are two overhead doors on that existing building in the corner there. We're looking to replace those overhead doors with full vision glass doors so that that could be opened up, could be kind of an indoor-outdoor space adjacent to the park. And that would also give anyone who drives in, because Menard Alley is really the spine of Pilot Dogs campus. That's where all of their parking is. It's where all the staff access all of the buildings. So maintaining the access for the new building off of that alley, while also having anyone who comes to it, get to experience the park as they walk towards the entrance. Other than that, I don't know if Jim or Carmen have anything to add, but we're happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Okay, questions for the applicant?
I have a question. So, you've been coming to in front of us for years now with projects, so. but-
Totally different group, though.
Yeah, Pilot Dogs is obviously
Pilot Dogs has, yeah.
a great asset to East Franklinton. I just want to clarify the red lines around the blocks. Have you guys acquired all three of the blocks? Do you own all that land?
We're close. I'm
Okay.
trying. So we still are missing. Do you want to know what we're missing?
I was just curious that it applies on these drawings that they're all now part of your
Yep.
campus, and I just.
That's the end goal. We're probably, as I look at it now, we're missing 4 houses, 5 houses, I'm sorry, and 1 building. Is that right? Nancy's house, the 3 brick, and then the 1 business that is at that corner on Rich Street. So yeah, it's 5 or 6 properties still to buy.
And I was kind of asking that question because of how you're expanding your buildings. Obviously, it's being respectful of the land that you do own, right? Do you have any like long-term plans for the bigger, like you're adding a hotel?
Yeah.
Right? You're adding other things. Do you have a vision for what the rest of it might be?
Yeah, so it starts with acquisition of the whole area, so it becomes our little campus. And I'm inexperienced with like shutting down the roads or acquiring the entire alley. We've talked about that at different times, and different people have said, you can do it, you can't do it. So that's in our head. No, can't do it.
I don't know.
No,
I know it's pretty difficult.
it's not
You
easy.
can ask to do it.
Yes, you can ask.
I know the library asked if they would, so.
Well, somebody wanted to send you a picture of somebody hit, one of our students hit by a car and laying in the middle of the street to see if that would move the needle. We thought that was probably not a great idea, right? But the idea of an enclosed campus, because we do have students coming in and we are growing and we are expanding in the future. We'll have military veterans on campus. We will have, of course, folks that are visually impaired and blind. It would be great to have the entire 3 blocks. So that to provide more security for travel, for training. Most of the extra space initially would be for training and experience for the students. And there is a park, I'm losing the picture. I think where the circles are, right?
The trees are.
Yeah, so there's been some thought that when we acquire, we're still missing 1 house over there. But when we do get that, we can expand the park and again, more training areas, more, spots for the students where they can improve. The idea of future building growth, really probably hinges on the building on Ridge Street, the long rectangular building that we have half of. That can be used for, moving kennels over potentially. As we grow. So I don't think we have firm plans. It's always, when I got to Pilot Dogs, I was told it's always been a vision to hopefully acquire all 3 blocks and then, work from there.
Well, it would be great, as a commission, to have that vision when you come in front of us.
Yeah.
With these proposals,
Sure.
just knowing that, this is a long-term investment.
Yeah.
In this community and that you do have plans and when we can see is we're approving things, how it ties into a bigger,
Yeah.
even if you haven't acquired everything.
Yeah.
I'm sure all those people know that you're probably interested, so it's not like giving anything away. So, but it just would be helpful for us to put things in context.
Okay.
Like the alley, right? Like, what's your long-term view of the alley?
Yeah.
So, just.
Great. No problem.
Any suggestions, comments on any of the issues we have jurisdiction over here?
Can I come back to Kim? You mentioned the hotel. I just want to clarify. It's interesting that you said that. Is that on our plans anywhere? Does it say hotel?
That's hotel.
That's how we refer to it.
Okay, I just want to make sure because it's gotten misunderstood. That is a term that I started using just as a mindset for overall improvement of the residents for where our students stay. So it's not obviously a paid hotel.
I assumed it wasn't.
Okay, all right, just making sure.
Yeah.
I confused a lot of people. There was a rumor that we were selling all the properties and buying property in the middle of downtown and building a new hotel. That made no sense whatsoever.
It's not gonna be TripAdvisor, right?
What's that?
It's not gonna be a TripAdvisor.
Absolutely not. I hope not.
And that's something that actually came up in our discussion about the council variance, that in the classifications, they would actually consider more of a dorm, I think technically,
yeah.
but we're working through what it would be considered.
I have a question. I don't know how to describe the building, corner of, can you go back to the overall site plan? Here. You say you're gonna acquire this guy, this building here on the end? You're not
Which guy?
We own part of the building,
part of it?
We own the half that is,
left side,
Oh,
but the plants and it's been a yoga studio.
Yeah.
There's
That's
no,
being redeveloped
no
now.
plan right now.
Okay.
yeah, there's a business in there right now. We were a few months late. So if they ever decide to sell or they move out, we'll jump on it.
Yeah, I'd hate to see that building get torn down, that's all. You know, it's such a very Franklinton building, you know, it's up to the sidewalk, it really defines.
Oh, yeah. No, it's great.
It's a cool building.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I need, thanks.
That's back to my comment about a master plan, kind of like what buildings that you are there now that you don't own, that you'd like to keep, and all that stuff. That would just be helpful.
So that'd be something for them when they actually come before us for approval.
Yeah.
To bring a master plan.
I'm sorry.
So
Oh,
when you just say, suggestion is when you come to us for approval,
Yep.
bring that, bring as much of a master plan as you can develop.
Of course. Yep.
See how everything.
How do you guys feel about a pickleball court? I get asked about putting in a pickleball court every
Everybody's
day.
putting in pickleball courts here.
These wouldn't allow it.
What's that? You wouldn't allow it?
No, my knees wouldn't allow it.
Oh, I think it's, yeah.
Well, again, it's not to be glib about it, but you're creating a campus, you have people staying there.
Yep.
They probably want something recreation, right?
So they would never play that. So we do have, but yeah, no.
Something like that.
Well, our staff wants it, and then as soon as they get it, they won't use it. Like that, we already know that. They're gonna play twice and then they'll be done. So, but no, you bring up a really good point that our students, if you don't know, I don't know how much you guys know about pilot dogs. And if you want to talk for the next 6 hours about it, I can, because I love it so much. But our students, I had originally thought they come and it's like, oh, wow, it's this great vacation. I get a dog. What a blast, right? And it's not that. They're completely terrified. The anxiety levels are unimaginable in my world. And so we try to do, the hotel, there's so much design that goes into that reduces that anxiety and stress. And so workout facility or, pinball machines or whatever to get their minds like just off of, clear their heads a little bit is certainly a focus of ours. So, yeah.
Yeah, you brought up, I did have one quick question about pilot dogs.
Yeah.
Again, everything, you guys are great in Franklinton and it's wonderful to see the growth and,
Yeah.
being downtown, I'm interested, cause I know you have to acquire now this land and you're like, to get more.
Yep.
What makes you guys, choose Franklinton and not, you can find space or why stay in Franklinton?
Stay or why did we acquire it to start?
Yeah, how you're gonna find a bunch of like, how you're trying to get more lots and more like houses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Why Franklinton?
So I'll defer to Carmen because it was her grandfather that did it, right? Like we started in 1950.
Yeah.
And I think, my idea for having the 3 blocks, it feels neat and tidy, right? Like having 3 blocks minus 4 houses or 2 properties just feels weird. But a lot of it is that if we own the 3 blocks, we don't have to worry about a one house or a one offer that gets disturbed by us being there, or one house is holding us up from, creating a bigger park or doing something more for our students and staff. Why stay? That's a great question because every other school in the country, and there's only 12 or 13 guide dog schools in the country, they're all out in the country. If you're out in the country, you got to put everybody on a bus or in a van and drive to city environment. It's probably one of our biggest advantages that we walk right out the front door and we're on Town Street, and be careful, you're going to get hit by a big yellow bus, right? And that's great for us. That is such awesome experience for the dogs, for the students, that is so difficult to get at any other school. So that came up early on. I've been at Pilot Dogs now for 2 years. Probably a year in, somebody suggested, why don't we just sell all this and move out to the country? And I'm not for it at this point. Somebody would have to make a really compelling argument to do it. I love where we are, and it's competitively a great advantage over all the other schools.
I think your previous leadership explained that to us years ago, and it made so much sense.
Yep.
And to watch your students in action,
Oh,
walking through downtown and stuff like that is like, I get
Oh,
it.
it's cool.
Yeah, so I was about to comment on is someone who walks through Franklinton a lot, I
Yeah.
don't get to interact with, not interact because they're working.
Yep.
Well, there's so much variety in that.
You have a lot of different options and there are opportunities to train.
Yes, sir.
Since this is a conceptual review, I just wanted to offer some commentary. I'm a resident of Franklinton and have a pretty good understanding of what you guys do, but even some of this to me was new to hear. I think the one perception that I hear a lot about your campus is that it's very compound looking. Like a lot of the older warehouse style buildings just have these small windows that are raised up, and it's like a mystery what goes on in there.
Yeah.
And it's becoming more of a interactive walkable neighborhood. So as you're thinking through expansion plans and designing buildings, maybe incorporate as much open windows and light and maybe green space or something that feels not so closed off to the surrounding community. I understand there's a lot of safety concerns too, so that's a balance, but just wanted to share that feedback.
Yeah.
I can sort of add to that a little bit, maybe a little historical context, in that, Pile Dogs has been around for a very long time, and there was a time that a lot of us remember in East Franklinton neighborhood was very rough, and that a lot of the buildings sort of evolved in this sort of defensible space. And it's unfortunate that some buildings still maintain that look because it's not the same neighborhood as it was, and nobody wants to look like it's all bunker. There's a lot of things in the neighborhood. There's that you want to take the boards off. It's time to open back up and be friendly in the neighborhood again. So I can understand why historically, businesses when they put a building up, you go look at buildings on Sullivan Avenue, they're just locked down completely, not a window in place, because that's safer. And so it's, I know what Chris is saying, and there's a look at the existing buildings, like stay out. It's completely inward. Even having all the doors on the off the alley, it focuses inward, which is kind of the opposite of what the plan calls for. The plan calls for engaging the street, engaging the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So this is something that has been occurring for 100 years, whatever. So it's hard to get back from that, but I appreciate Chris bringing that up because it is a good point. You do want to feel a little softer engagement in the community, like a campus, like a university campus would try to do. Entry features, things like that to make it feel like part of the community. I'm not saying it's easy to accomplish. I'm not saying it's even within a reasonable budget to do so.
Yeah.
But it is a point of sensitivity in the neighborhood that did not used to exist and does exist now.
So I would add, I think, and I can be totally off on this, I'm making some of this up, but in the kennel building, I think there was a huge concern about sound. And so that's why the high windows, I believe, could be off on that. If you look at that picture, you can see all the open windows.
Yeah.
I hope that helps a little bit. And that is over, okay, that's over by that's the GNR building, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully the other building looks similar with some big windows. So yeah, I couldn't agree more with what you guys say. I would also say too, there was probably some protection. The way dogs were trained, yeah, there we go. That looks better. The way dogs were trained 70 years ago, you didn't want to see it. There was some protection over it because they were way tougher on the dogs. So I've been a dog trainer since I was 5 years old. And when I first heard about pilot dogs, it was, if a dog steps off a curb inappropriately, it's not a fun day for the dog. And I could always justify it in my head in that if I tell my dog to sit in the kitchen and he doesn't do it, well, who cares, right? I just tell him again, tell him 5 more times and get frustrated and give up, right? Well, if a dog goes over a curb and they're not supposed to with the person who's visually impaired, you could have a death or a serious injury. So I can kind of justify it. We don't train like that anymore. It's totally different. So there may have been some protection there with it, if that was felt. So I hope what I'm saying is, yep, we agree, we get it. I think those are great ideas. And we're certainly doing everything we can to open up pilot dogs to different groups that need to come in, whether it's somebody that needs to use our bistro. We're totally open to all of the police agencies if they want to bring bomb dogs in or bite whatever they need. So we're trying to do that as much as possible. So I love those suggestions.
And I've witnessed that. I've enjoyed getting to know you guys. I think that you're taking the pilot dog sort of like philosophy and logic and care outside the walls of your building and your community.
Yeah.
I appreciate you going that direction.
Well, thanks. Appreciate it.
We're definitely attempting to do that with the design of the buildings, create a little more openness. You know, in this elevation that you're seeing here, there will be, at the entrance to that, there'll be a small museum about history of pilot dogs. They have a lot of memorabilia that, and, you know, the history of their harnesses and all of that that we want to put on display. And similar with the GNR building, you know, that entrance, part of the glass along that entrance will be the training room. That'll be more visible from the outside.
So I think that's a really good, a whole bunch of really good comments back to my kind of the master plan type of thing. You know, the alley, right now, because that's what you have to work with, you're building a face on the alley.
Yeah.
Which I think, you know, from a campus standpoint, is probably a really good move for you, that you create I'd like to see that alley space, and I'm almost 100% thinking the city will not let you close that and make it private, but because I've been through that before, but maybe this is a different situation, but it would be really interesting if you did allow the public through there, and they could see what you're doing. You know, it's kind of like just another route, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to make the neighborhood walkable and all that. So it's not just about the streets, but alleys can play a role too. And if you're developing a campus and it's more of an internal kind of focus, as that alley became kind of public-private. And yet we've reviewed some other projects where they wanted to close the alley off, and you know, that becomes a challenge. So that could be a really interesting space in the context of East Franklinton.
Yeah.
I know you probably have all sorts of security issues and all that stuff, but that could be a really beautiful kind of campus-like space in the middle of Franklinton that everybody could kind of walk through. I'm not saying hang out, but walk through it. I know, again, there's all sorts of security issues.
Yeah, well, I think also to add, we're training more, so the park that's out there, it's fenced in. Once we're in, we're secure, and so there are security issues, right? But we train out in that park a lot now, and so we get bystanders and we get watchers, and we always encourage people to watch. It helps us as well. It makes our trainers nervous a little bit, which is good because that stresses them and makes them better. But it also helps the dogs a lot because the dogs are getting distractions automatically. It doesn't cost us anything, and it's great experience for everybody all around. So to the extent that helps that a little bit, we're certainly doing that more.
Bill and I have been on the commission long enough that we've ever approving that park.
Oh, did you?
I remember there was the sculpture that's.
Yep.
That was still in the process of being kind of finalized, I think. And
It's in there, isn't it?
yeah,
You're talking about the headstone.
no, the person walking the dog.
That's over at the
Oh,
other.
that's at this building that we keep.
That's where you see the little park right
Yeah,
there.
that didn't we?
It'll be maintained.
It's maintained, yeah.
That's the park, we approved that way.
That, okay.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, cool piece.
Yeah, no, it's great.
They made a very nice presentation about the whole organization at that meeting.
Yep.
It's good.
So I support everything you're doing. I think everything looks good. I think you've got architecturally, you've got a vibe and a brand and an image that you're trying to, I think it all, continue to build it on makes a lot of sense.
Great, thank you.
All right, anything else, folks? All right, well, this is conceptual, so thank you very much.
Great.
Seeing you back here.
Okay, we'll see y'all. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Okay, staff, do we have any other business to be brought forward?
Nothing that's on the agenda, but we did want to just follow up on the 630 West Broad. If you recall, that is the marker project where we were having a conversation about the trees and the utility duct, whether they're could or could not be trees. We've been working between us, the applicant, and DPS since I think that was the meeting in May. And we just got word today from DPS that we've landed on a solution that will allow street trees on West Broad. Noel let the applicant know today, so they should be putting all of that together with that streetscape plan, and they should be ready to get their COA and move forward with permitting.
Stephanie, did you have like a summary of what the solution was?
Yeah, it was quite similar to what the applicant had originally proposed. So they were originally, the issue was DPS had wanted the trees pushed to the curb, but the utility duct was in the way, so the applicant was proposing them essentially in the center of the sidewalk, so there was passage for people along Broad, but then also, behind the trees closer to the building. So we were just able to finagle that a little bit, that we asked the applicant to scoot those planters as far towards Broad Street as physically possible without interfering with that duct. And then we actually went out and measured the planter boxes in front of this building, and they're only 5 feet deep, and the applicant was showing 6 feet. So DPS was willing to accommodate the 5 foot, even though 6, I think, is the standard. So that I think we were able to ultimately ended up with just about 7 feet on either side of a 5 foot planter. So, but I think it's 4 or 5 trees that they're planting in front of that building, so.
Yeah.
I just wanted to circle back to that.
There's
That was-
adjacent property there that'll probably have the same problem, right?
So just wanted
Some
to circle.
applications are 1 tree at a time, others are 5, so.
Just wanted to circle back to that since it was a point of discussion. So
Okay. There being no further business before the board, this meeting is now adjourned. Our next meeting is Wednesday, August 23rd. Same time, same place. Thank you.
Hey, Bill, is this Stephanie's last meeting with us?
it sure is.
It sure is. Thank you so much. Formally, now that we're done with the meeting, we were formal last week, informally, thank you.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Welcome Nolan officially.
Well, when you have your work cut out.
On your own, though.
Nolan, I know
Like, this is
Stephanie.
perfect. I'm really the same voice to hear, but I was gonna want you to go out on a bad note.
We'll see. I have the UIDRB meeting tomorrow.
Okay, good
How
times.
that goes.
Yes. Well, I wish you nothing but an easy meeting.